Today it's all about getting a new farm business off the ground and scaling up with farmer Adam Trost of Bent Arrow Acres. Welcome to Grass-Fed Life. I'm your host, Diego, D-I-E-G-O. Today on the podcast, I'm talking to farmer Adam Trost of Bent Arrow Acres. Adam and his wife own and operate their farm, which is located on 33 acres in north central Indiana. They raise broilers, egg layers, pork, and just started doing beef this year. But one of the challenges they're running into is they have a family, and they also have another business. Call it the main hustle. And the farm is really the side hustle. So they're trying to figure out ways to grow their farm business away from just the retail sales model, not just with farmers markets. So one of the big topics in this episode with Adam is how do they scale their farm and start building a bulk sales program? Where can they focus their efforts, and how can they build other market streams? In this episode, Darby and I are basically doing a consult with Adam. First, you're going to hear his story. Then you're going to hear some of the challenges he's running into. And you're going to hear some of the suggestions that Darby and I have for overcoming those challenges. This is a long one. It gets really detailed. And although a lot of what we're talking about is specific to what Adam is going through, I think a lot of what he's going through is applicable to a lot of new farmers out there. So whether you're somebody who doesn't want to do farmers markets, or you're somebody who just wants to grow sales in general, pay attention here. There's a lot for you. And before we jump into today's episode, one thing I want to note about this episode. Today's episode is a special Grass-Fed Insider podcast episode, meaning if you're listening to this on iTunes or somewhere else, you're going to hear a portion of the show, but to hear the full episode, you'll have to access it from inside the Grass-Fed Life Insider. If you're wondering what that is, it's a $5 a month program which gets you access to premium, exclusive content just like this every week, year-round. Learn more about it at grassfedlife.co/insider and enjoy the episode with farmer Adam Trost. So for today's episode, I'm joined by Darby and also fellow Hoosier and farmer Adam Trost of Northern Indiana. Adam, people aren't familiar with you. They haven't heard you on the show before. You're somebody who owns and works for your own company, a company that installs agricultural equipment on farms. And you're somebody who also aspires to be a farmer. First of all, for people who don't know you, give us a little bit of background on who you are, why you do what you do. Why do you own Indiana Farm Systems? What gets you all excited about this?
Yeah, so I graduated from Purdue in 2009. Went to work for a construction engineering firm in Indianapolis. And my family, my parents owned Indiana Farm System. They bought it in 1993. And then 2010, my dad asked me to come back to the company, start learning it. I worked here in high school as kind of a grunt laborer, but he asked me to come back to it. So I've been working here since 2010. In 2015, my wife and I agreed to purchase it from my parents. We should have it completely purchased by 2025. That's the goal anyway. Indiana Farm Systems. We install grain handling and storage equipment for mainly commercial farms, farms that grow corn and soy on the 1,000+ acres. So that's my full-time job. Provides very nice living for my family.
So a lot of people would hear that and they would say, that's a pretty nice gig. Full-time job at a company that you own. It pays you a salary. It pays your health insurance. You own the company. You chose to work there. You opted in. And it works. Why even look at farming?
2013, my wife and I started down this path of sustainability and farming. And we kind of started with the garden and a few backyard chickens. And it kind of just escalated from there. We started reading and really getting into the food that we were putting in our bodies. And then one thing led to another. People asked if we could, if they could buy our products, if they could buy our eggs, and we just continued to grow. We do live on 33 acres that was conventionally farmed. Back in 2016, we took it out of conventional agriculture and put it in pasture. And I guess the whole reason behind this was our land was conventionally farmed, and each year I saw the erosion that was taking soil off my ground every year, and it just finally, I kind of got fed up, and I finally said, well, we're going to do something about it. And so that brings us to where we are today.
Yeah, thinking of this whole story, it's a really unique one because a lot of people, they want to start a farm business because they're looking for job transition or job replacement. And that's not really where you're at. I mean, in your context, again, with a business that works, it's profitable, one that you own, one that does something that you like to do. Like, I'm assuming you're happy with it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have bought the company. You are looking at farm as a side business that, as you said in an email you sent to us, it has to be sustainable on its own. And it's also a way to fix the land. When you look at everything that you're doing with Indiana farm systems, there's potentially easier ways to fix the land. Did just the lure of farming and the ability to fix the land, as you said, raise your own food in the process, did you realize what you were getting into? And now that you've started getting into it, like, do you have time for both? Can you make both happen now?
The answer to that question was no. I had no idea what I was getting into. We did not grow up on a farm. Neither my wife or I had animals growing up. She had a family dog. And starting with 12 chickens that we picked up from Rural King, we had no idea where we were going.
When you went into it, you were attracted, let's say, to the romanticism of farming, which I think everyone is, suburban to country and urban alike. Like, everybody has that Wendell Berry dream of the nice farm morning. And you didn't know what you're getting into. You bought the chicks at Farm King. You started getting into it. You came from a business background. You worked as a project manager. You had owned a business or owned a part into a business, one that you would eventually buy. So you realize, okay, this is what entrepreneurship, this is what running a family business is like, seeing it growing up. When you took this dive into it all, was it straight hobby at the beginning, or was there the approach from day one to say, I need to monetize this?
No, it was straight hobby from the beginning. And it still kind of is a hobby farm in the fact that it's not self-sustaining yet. It is profitable in a sense that if I wanted it to be, it could be, but we're kind of reinvesting all of the profits and not paying ourselves into building infrastructure. The reason, we went down the road of turning this conventional farm into a pasture and seeing how we could regenerate the land. But I quickly realized, listen, there's so many easier ways to make money than trying to stand around this $40 to $50, even $100,000 income, not paying yourself, not really having enough profit to have a full-time employee, not having enough profit to afford health insurance, or not having enough profit to afford a decent farm vehicle. And so I quickly realized, like, okay, in order to get the profit where this company can stand on its own, we're going to have to expand this. And I think there is that opportunity. And, maybe 5 years down the road, we get to the point, or even 10 years down the road, we get to the point where it's like, okay, there's not enough market for this company to be overly profitable and stand on its own. And we can easily just go back to a hobby farm where we grow food for ourselves and family members and friends.
And hearing that, Darby, what are your thoughts? Is that kind of the common path or one of the common problems you see people run into?
Kind of the way Adam is tackling his farm is a very similar way that we tackled our farm. 2007, 2008, 2009, and really for most of 2010, we recycled all the money that came in back into the farm, and it was kind of this analogous way of like, okay, I'm just going to keep pouring fuel on the fire, right, to get this thing super hot until it will burn on its own. And I think regardless of what business you're talking about, like there's an element of that. Like it just takes time because you start with some seed money, and you've got to grow it from there. And for most of us, we're coming from another job or career or industry that does provide a very good living. I mean, I came out of engineering. Adam went to Purdue, got a bachelor's degree. Very similar stories. He's got 2 young kids and a wife and a mortgage. And, I had all those things, and it's kind of like, okay, well, where do we come up with the extra money to build this thing? And I think early on, you just got to keep reinvesting. And frankly, for the first 2 to 3 years, at least, probably 4 or 5 years, like you're basically working 2 jobs. It's just the way it is, unless you start with a bunch of capital on the front end. It just takes a while to build up your infrastructure, gain some knowledge, build a customer base. But I tell you what, about year 4 or 5, like it really does just kind of like start to take off, right? Because so much of your equipment is bought and paid for. You've got the knowledge base you need. You've built a marketing list. You've got some customers. You've got some followers, and it becomes that snowball. Just like it starts to really roll down the hill a whole lot faster on its own, with gravity pulling it, as opposed to us pushing it when we first get started.
And thinking about what you're doing, Adam, would you approach it differently if you had to go start that farm full time now for income? Meaning you didn't own Indiana Farm Systems, you didn't have that outside employment security. Would this farm approach be different?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If I didn't have that outside income, I'd probably have to bootstrap a lot of different things. There would probably be a lot more stress on my end. I go into this knowing that, okay, at the end of the day, if I don't have this income, it's not that big of a deal. If we have to just say, okay, this farm isn't going to work out, it's not that big of a deal. I've got this full-time income that's seemingly never going to go away. I mean, it's a company that's been in business for 26 years, always been profitable. So, if I had to go into this knowing that one day this has got to be my full-time income, it would change a lot of how we do things.
When you think about what you're doing, you're really starting the farm on the side. Even though you live on the property, like both companies, the farm and the company are housed where you live, and you own the company you work for, the farm is the side here. How has it been trying to start this up on the side? This is one thing a lot of people do. They work for other companies. They try and do it on the side. Do you think work-wise the approach would be different if you dedicated all of your time to the farm? And has it been manageable to this point to just do it on the side?
Yeah, so it definitely is a side gig. Like my full-time job, we have 12 employees. It's we have hundreds of customers. Like I have got to be here from 8 to 5 in the non busy times of the year, and in the fall when we're really busy, it might be 7 to 7, 12-hour days. And it's not something you can just walk away from. It's definitely, the farm takes a back seat. So if I were on the farm full time, I mean, it would drastically change, I think, where we are on the farm, as far as where our sales numbers are, because you can only just, when you're doing the side hustle thing, there's only so much time in the day. Like this is one of my big questions for Darby, was to get a farm off the ground to provide a full-time salary. You're essentially working 2 full-time jobs. And right now I'm feeling like I'm working a full-time job and just a part-time job. Luckily for me, I don't have the hour-long commute that some people do. It sounded like Darby had. I mean, and Darby will let you know, there is a ton of work you can get done in an hour-long commute to the office and an hour-long commute away from the office. Like if I just do an hour's worth of work before work and an hour's worth of work after work, I've got my chicken brooder set up right next to my full-time job. I can pop down there at 10, noon, and 2 and check on baby chicks. Like there's a huge advantage to me working and living on the farm, but it still is a side hustle.
Well, you mentioned that Indiana Farm Systems, the business you own, that's really a safety net in a way. Like that's always going to be there. And I can tell you take pride in that. It's been in the family for 26 years. It's profitable. You enjoy it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have made this commitment. And I kind of get the sense that that's also the type of person who you are. Like you don't want to do something on a lark and not have it succeed. And I get the feeling that, yes, this farm thing is the side thing now, but you want it to be a farm that lasts into the future. You want it to be a farm that's going to be successful like your other business and get successful enough so that both become manageable within your context. The challenge right now is, how do you get that farm to that point? Are you working a side hustle and a full-time job, or are you working 2 full-time jobs? Darby, 2 full-time jobs, is that what he's stuck with right now?
Yeah, pretty much. If I think back to, so 2007, probably much like Adam, we started very small. I started with $600, an 8x8 Salatin style chicken tractor, and 50 broilers. By the end of 2009, so 3 seasons in, I was really tired because I, in my quote unquote spare time, raised 2,000 broilers and 20 pigs and marketed all that product. And I did have about a 45 to 50 minute commute each way. So I did what I could. Like I could make phone calls. I could mentally churn on things while I was in the vehicle. My lunch break, like I'm replying to emails. I'm typing up marketing material. I'm jotting down to-do lists for when I get home. There was a couple of years there where, look, to make it happen, it just requires a lot of personal sacrifice. Now I had a very different track in the sense that I was going to leave the security of that full-time off-farm job. I wasn't going to have that as a safety net. I was trying to get our farm to be full-time to support our family as quickly as I could. And definitely by the end of 2009, I was at a point where, yeah, like I couldn't do any more. I couldn't produce anymore. I couldn't sell anymore without putting more hours into the farm. And that simply wasn't going to happen if I continued to work a full-time job.
So given that, what is the path forward here? How do you start to take what he has on the ground already and manage both contextually, time-wise? He doesn't want to lose the relationship with his wife. He wants to see his kids. He wants this other business to stay going because you don't want the safety net to burn up below you while you try and build this other thing. How can he take the time he has, leverage what he has on the ground right now, and get that to where it needs to be? Well, there you have it. That's all for the publicly aired portion of today's programming. We're going to leave you hanging right here. If you want to hear the remaining 90 or so minutes of this episode, you're going to have to do so as a Grass-Fed Life Insider. Over the next 90 minutes, we're going to give Adam specific suggestions on how to build and grow his bulk sales program and how to add different market streams to his farm now so he can move away from farmers markets. We're going to spend a lot of time advising him on where he might want to focus his efforts. Because he's a dad, he's a business owner, he's a husband, he doesn't have a lot of time to waste. So a big part of this is, where do you get the most return for effort in? So that's where we're going to leave you hanging for this one. If you want to listen to the rest of this episode, do so as a Grass-Fed Life Insider. Just log into your account, look for the podcast section, and there you can stream or download this episode and hear the rest of it. If you're not a member and you want to hear the rest of this, then consider becoming a member of the Grass-Fed Life Insider at grassfedlife.co/insider. $5 a month gets you premium exclusive content just like this every week throughout the year. Learn more at grassfedlife.co/insider. And if you're currently a member, thanks for the support and enjoy the rest of the episode with farmer Adam Trost. Until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.